to Jen and let Jen get started.
Awesome. Thanks, Susan. And thank you for remembering to hit record, because inevitably I would have forgotten. That is and I'm sure all of you have maybe experienced this in your own states, or maybe you're just more together than I am. But the forgetting to hit record is terrifying. And unfortunately, it happens. So really excited to have you all here. And then also for those of you that are going to be meeting up with us in DC, I can't hardly wait. I'm so excited about this. Wanted to give just a quick overview of where we're at. This is why I've got my calendar up here, an incredibly busy time, because this is one of when we're going to be there, one of the last couple of weeks where the House and Senate are both going to be in session together. So one of the questions I've had quite a bit over the last couple of days is, what's the schedule? What's the schedule? What's the schedule? And I promise you, we are not dragging our feet on getting that done. I had at least 6 changes to the schedule yesterday from representative and senators' offices connecting with me saying, oh, we need to switch this time because of this committee and that committee. And then I've had 4 already this morning, and well, it's noon here for me. So they are in the works. I'm having people just get back now saying, oh, yes, I can meet, or we have this meeting. And part of that is because we're meeting with higher tiered folks on the Hill while we're there. And we're meeting with them on a date that works best for us, not them picking a date that works best for them. Because I know a lot of you have scheduled meetings in your home constituency on Zoom, and it hasn't been that hard to get them. And this is just because we're flipping the script a little bit. It's a bit of a different animal. So just wanted to make you aware of that, but we will have schedules out to you for Friday, along with any materials that you might need to be able to review on the plane, or just have some time to take a look at before you get there. So this is all in the works, but again, it's a bit of a moving target with Sherpas, and I know Mike will go into that, but just really appreciate everybody's patience and your willingness to participate, because this is shaping up to be a Hill Day like no other. And I'm very excited about it. So Mike, you're laughing at me. Oh, yeah. So I'm going to, without further ado, turn it over to Mike Anderson. Now, Mike is a board member with FASD United, but also has worked as a lobbyist on the Hill, and has also worked as a staff person on the Hill. So has some really good insight into how these meetings will happen, priorities, logistics, all of those things. So, but definitely put your comments in the chat or your questions in the chat, and I'll just kind of pipe in as we go. And then if I don't get to the questions right away, again, pop them in again, and we'll save up some that are more common towards the end. So Mike, I'll go ahead and forward your slides for you if that's okay.
Well, are you gonna be the one that's doing the show and tell, the show and I'll tell? Well, how do you want me to do it? Okay, good. All right. All right, good. Then why don't you go ahead and let's start with slide number 1. One of the Zoom users that's on this happens to be a person who's also going to be a Sherpa. She's chosen not to identify herself. She's like super secret, but I want to just tell you that it's my spouse, Renee. And she also has, look, she's even laughing. She's laughing because I can see her. The yellow just came up on that side. But she also has some experience on the Hill, and she, particularly on the Senate side. So she has graciously volunteered. And I want to acknowledge that she's going to be volunteering to be a Sherpa also. So there you go.
Absolutely. Happy to help.
And I'll tell you, she's a much better looking Sherpa than I will ever be. So let's just go with that. Okay, do we have the first slide? Are we showing the first slide? Yes, ma'am. Okay, great. So that's the introductions just for today. Let's go to the second one. And the second one says, by the way, I should probably just come off there. Yep, there we go. 2 things that are really important. 2 things that are really important for us. Remember our purpose for going to the Hill. It's about what's in the middle there. It's about the FASD Respect Act. It's about educating. It's about informing. You're not lobbying. You're educating and informing. Okay, so that's what this is about. And what we want to do is get this Respect Act. There's 3 categories of folks that we're going to be talking to. Category number 1 probably would be folks that have already are sponsors, and our message to them is going to be, let's get this thing to the floor for a vote. That's going to be what we're going to try to do. That's message number 1. Message number 2 will be folks who are not sponsors, but we've talked to. And that second message is going to be, hey guys, we've talked to you about this before. And by the way, we've thought, why aren't you sponsoring? How can we get you over that edge and go ahead and be a sponsor? The third category of person is we've never met with them. And you coming to DC provides an awesome opportunity for us to go ahead and meet with them and educate them. And at the same time saying, you know what, they're going to say, hey, how can we help you? Because that's what congressmen do. When congressmen and women do, the answer is, can you please co-sponsor this and help us get it to the floor? So there's 3 different messages that we kind of want to tailor ourselves to. Just keep that in mind because we're going to help you that. Once you get that message, stay on the message. Let's just stay on the message and we'll be really successful with this. A second question. Let's go to this next slide. How many of you have ever been to the Hill before I get into this slide? I mean, have you, who's not been? Let's ask this. Who's not? I'm looking at everybody's faces now. Who's not been to the Hill? All right. Who's nervous about going to see a member of Congress or the staff? You know what? They put their pants on one leg at a time. I learned that they put their pants on one leg at a time. They eat meals just like you and I do. They have families just like you and I do. They see the world, believe it or not, similarly to how you and I do. What we see in the media tends to kind of distort that, take advantage and so forth. But to a large degree, they understand that. I remember hearing an ad says that Shingles doesn't care. Shingles doesn't care. You may have heard that, right? You may have heard that on the radio, on TV. Well, you know what? They understand that FASD, we're going to help them understand it. FASD doesn't care. It doesn't care what state you come from. It doesn't care what district you come from. It doesn't care whether you're gay, straight. It doesn't care whether you're white, black, yellow, red, green, olive. It doesn't care. It doesn't care whether you're Republican, Democrat, or independent. That's what it is. And with that in mind, don't worry about what politics they have. That's not for you to decide, for you to worry about. Take your message, take your story, and take it to the Hill. That's the most important thing you can do. And you know what? You own that message. You own that story. Nobody else can take that story. You have earned the right to take that story to the Hill. So I just want to say, in fact, I wrote a note. I heard Jen say we're meeting with higher tiered representatives. You know what? The other part is true. They're meeting with a higher tiered FASD representative. That's what they're meeting with. So you all just take that and own it and go with it. So just to let you know, be aware, there is what's called another Respect Act in the House. You just need to be aware of it just in case you walk into it, particularly in the House of Representatives, and somebody goes, is this the Respect Act in resources? And you can say, well, no, we're HR 4151, the FASD Respect Act. And make sure we always say FASD, include that adjective in front of that, not that noun, FASD Respect Act, so that they understand that it is not the requirements, expectations, and standard procedures for effective consultation with Tribes Act 3587. And I'm not going to tell you what the issue is there. It's irrelevant. We just want to be out of that pocket that somebody's going to try to put us into. Okay, just remember that. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to put this is kind of like a text. I was kind of looking at my phone. I was looking. Oh, this is kind of like text stuff, right? So, question: the first text you're going to send me is, how do I get to Capitol Hill? And I'm going to say this: Uber and Lyft are your best bets. Taxis also work. But nice thing about Uber is you're not out in the corner waiting for some red and go. And our taxis in DC are fundamentally red and silver. You're not going to see many other colors. In fact, it's just going to be red and silver. It's kind of like being in New York. You see a yellow cab. In DC, it's red and silver. And the best place to meet them are on the corners. But just in case you're not in a location where you can get it into Hyatt, you'll probably be able to get them, and that's cool. Uber and Lyft are also your best backs, and taxis work. How long will it take? I would budget from the hotel for 30 minutes. It might say 23.5 minutes to get there. You know what? Just budget 30 minutes, depending on the time of the day. The toughest time for travel in DC that'll affect you is going to be right around lunchtime, between 11 and 1. So if it's between 11 and 1 that you got to be on the hill, I would budget maybe another 15 minutes, especially going down M Street. Okay, now that also gives you an incentive that if you're going around 11 to 1, I'm going to just kind of give this to you based on experience. I take a taxi. Taxi drivers know how to get around, whereas Lyft and Uber, they're going to go GPS. GPS may or may not get them around some of the shortcuts that the taxi drivers are most familiar. So that's why I would say taxi drivers also work, but just budget for that. What addresses should I plug in into your, when you get it into there, into your app for Lyft and for Uber? 2 ones. And I just did it today. So it works. Hart Senate Office Building, Rayburn House Office Building. And in fact, if we go to the next slide, and by the way, are we going to have these slides available for folks to be able to, because I know they're sitting there going, wait a minute, wait, what was that? Okay, next slide, please. Next slide should be a map of Capitol Hill. If you can, building number 3, upper right blue, is the Hart Senate Office Building. Building number 5, down below number 9, I'm sorry. Number 5 is never mind. Number 9 is the Rayburn House Office Building. And where that red dot, where you had that red dot, go back up right in the middle by Independence Avenue, over there, come down. Yeah, right, close to it. But just above the 9 on Independence Avenue, thank you, is where you will get dropped off by Lyft, Uber, or the taxi. And you'll see a lot of dogs coming across the right front, but just disregard them. On the Hart Building, go up to number 3. You'll get dropped. Bingo, right there. That's exactly where you're going to get dropped off. Okay. So just for planning, I know that, but once you get that, it's by building 3 and up there, the center of building 9, that's where you're going to get dropped off at. They could drop you off at other locations, but they're going to get yelled at by security. So they're going to be very cautious, particularly the taxi drivers, about where they drop you off. Now, the next thing that happens is, okay, any questions up to this point? Let's go back to that slide just before this. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
So the map will be in the dossier. And yes, you want to dress professionally as you would for any meeting. However, there is a lot of walking involved. So if you need to wear sandals, if you need to wear comfortable walking shoes, if you need to wear red tennis shoes, that is perfectly legitimate and okay. You're no good to us dead. And if you're out of commission because your feet hurt, you're not going to be on your best. And, it was like Mike said, remember the message, remember the purpose, and don't let your shoes distract you from that. So if you can walk out there and and for those of you that haven't been to DC, these buildings and this area is massive, huge. Like each building is the size of a shopping mall, kind of. Like picture that. So you do want to be comfortable in, and Mike is maybe covering this, you want to be comfortable with your shoes.
No, you're right.
And you want to be comfortable in what you're wearing. It is hot and like muggy hot. And again, I'm a Washingtonian by way of Canada, so I'm pretty weak in that area. But you will want to, wearing a suit jacket, that might be problematic. You might be overheated. Carry it with you. If you're going to dress like that, make sure you have some layers so you can cool off. But your comfort is more important than your look, and you can't deliver the message if you get heat stroke. So sorry, Mike. Please.
No, you're right. I should have covered dress, but you're absolutely important. That's very, very important. Okay, cool. Let's go to the next slide then.
I gotta turn off my clear. There we go.
By the way, there are some, take time, if you've got time, take time to look around, because as you're going there, because for those who've never been to DC, I mean, I was just there for a reception for for a Congresswoman, Peltola from Alaska. And I had a chance, I know that was a big celebration, very historical, but I forgot, I mean, I've been to DC in such a while, and I just going through it, it's just beautiful. It's just really beautiful. So let's talk about our Sherpa. And we've kind of conveniently picked up, we could say escort, we could say all those kinds of things, your guide. I think Sherpa is kind of cool. I don't mind being called a Sherpa, right? I mean, I can take you all the way up to top of Everest, and that's where we're going to Everest. So where do I meet them? There's two places we're going to establish for now, and we'll brief the Sherpas on that also. The entrance to the Hart and the Rayburn building, because fundamentally that's where you're going to get dropped off. All righty. So how do you contact them? I'm going to commit, Jen, we're going to get them the cell numbers right to the Sherpas.
Yes.
Please contact them in advance, so that A, we know the number works and that you got it. And B, just to get coordinated, hey, I'm Rachel Singh. I'm getting ready to go meet with Congressman so-and-so or so forth. I'm planning on meeting you at the Hart building, or Senator so-and-so, I'm meeting you at the Hart building. Is that good? And the person will say, yep, I got you. I'm going to be at that entrance, and just kind of, there are usually right now 2 visitor entrances for each of the complexes, one on the east side, one on the west side. But we're choosing Hart because most of our meetings at least start there. It's an easier building to find and so forth. Any questions? Okay. So please contact them. Now, how should they help you? As a minimum, they should help you with contacting the staffer, because most of these folks have been to the Hill, so they should at least, and let them know to come get you at what entrance, because for some reason you might go to Hart and then they're gonna say, hey, let's come on down here. And as soon as they say, let's go here, you're lost. Trust me, you're gonna be lost. You're gonna sit there and go, well, what building are we? And they'll say, well, we're going to go down to the Russell building because that's where the office is, and so forth. At that point, let them know, hey, contact the staffer to come pick me up, because the rules are now, I mean, we just checked this with the Capitol Police. The rules are a staffer has to meet, when you're first going into the building, a staffer from the office you're visiting and having an official visit with has to meet you at the entrance. So you either have to contact them in advance and let them know what time you're going to be there, or most of the cases, just before you walk through security. You cannot walk through security without a staffer not holding your hand, but walking with you. Okay. And us Sherpas are not going to be able to get you through that. We might smile, they might know us, but my smile is not going to get us through it. So
Mike,
yes.
I just got an email from Sophia from McCollum's office, and she did say that if you're on in the Longworth building, and you've gone through security there, that you can go direct. You don't have to go through security. You can go
correct. And that's good. And that's one of the things I'm going to brief. If you go to the next slide, let me see. Do I talk about it there?
Well, and
hold that thought.
Just a note on that. So I have in booking the meetings, I have information on what entrance to which building they would like you to meet them at.
Okay, good.
And I have the phone number listed for the office and the person you need to call when you get there. And that'll be listed on your schedule. So each person attending meetings on the Hill will have a schedule that lays out your schedule for the day, who your Sherpa is meeting you when and where, and then also for your meetings, what office it's in, what building it's in, where you are to meet up with the staff person escorting you, who that staff person is, and what their phone number is to contact them when they get there. So all of that information is pre-booked and done for you. And it's my control freakish ways. I'm very sorry. But I knew there would be questions about that. And really our goal is to have you focused on the message and being at your best for delivering that message, and not worrying about, oh my gosh, how do I get here? How do I get there? Because I can tell you from firsthand experience, it is really intimidating when you get there. So the last thing you want to be worrying about is, oh my gosh, where do I go? I can't find, step into the map, Joey. I get lost very easily. So I
Good.
just want to make sure you're comfortable with all that. So I have all of that information for you. So don't panic. We've got this.
Isn't she great?
Please continue.
Jen, hey, yeah, that's awesome. Thank you very much, Jen. I just want to tell you also that this is Jen's first Hill Day I've done. This will be the 5th one I've done. Usually I've had a staff of at least 2 helping me out with this. So it's like, it's been like 3 people minimum. So she has 1.1 because I'm about a 10th of a person as far as helpful with this in terms of the details. So Jen, thank you very much. That's great. That'll be awesome. I appreciate it. Getting through security. How do you get through security? Is it like airport? It's kind of like going to the airport. When you go to the airport, if you've not traveled in a while, it's kind of can be a surprise. So let me not make sure it's not a surprise for you. All right. There are going to be metal things that you're going to walk through. There'll be metal detectors. So how do you get that? Minimize the metal that you have on you, but be prepared to move your watches, your belts. For guys, your belts, I guarantee you, just take it off. Just get ready to do it. You're not going to have to remove your shoes on the as you go through. They don't go through that, but and whatever they detect, if it goes through and the machine kicks off and goes boom, there's something metal on that person. They'll ask you to come aside. You're going to put your arms out. And they'll scan you one way, and if it's down by your shoes, they'll scan that. They'll ask. They'll be very respectful. Can I touch this area or touch that area? So they will be very respectful about it. The Capitol Police are awesome. They're just very awesome about that, and they're very polite and so forth. So just what I do is I minimize everything. I try to throw everything into like one bag or one backpack or one purse. I try to keep my matching purse with me when I go through there and just make sure all that stuff is stuffed in there. And that way you don't have to worry about it. And you come back on the other end and you just kind of pull everything out. That's what I would recommend. So just be prepared to go through. Are the security scanners the same at each entrance? In other words, here's the thing that happens, right? You go through one and then you come back out and then you're going through another one at another building. And it didn't kick off on the first one, but it kicks off on the second one. You're probably sitting there going, I mean, come on, shouldn't it be? It's not. They are set for different sensitivities, and those sensitivities change every half day at the different areas. That way it keeps folks that want to do some harm on their toes because they don't know what's going on and so forth. That's the whole reason for that. So the answer is no, they're not set the same. The procedures may be somewhat a little bit different at each, but there's a reason to their madness because they want to keep the security folks on their toes. I mean, they want to keep those that would do harm on their toes. Can you bring your cell phone? Yes, you can bring your cell phone. That's not a problem. Can you take pictures? You can take pictures once you get to the office that you're visiting with. One of the common pictures you'll take is the big little plaque that's outside their office. It says Senator Richard Burr, North Carolina. And a lot of people like to stand out there and they take a little picture. And all the pictures inside the offices are fine too. But the security will frown on you taking pictures in the broader area, especially somebody's just kind of taking a picture and pan. And again, for obvious reasons. So I would prefer that you not call attention to yourself and just withhold your pictures to what's when you have the meetings and so forth. It's a good one to take with a meeting with the staffer that you're with. You can post that on FASD and when you get back on your respective sites that you met with so-and-so, but that's what I would do. Okay. Good advertising. Next slide, please. Meeting times. What time are my meetings? Jen already covered that. How long are our meetings? 30 minutes or less. Less? What do you mean less? I'm there for 30 minutes. Well, that kind of depends. If you're meeting with a staffer, chances are it'll be 30 minutes. If it goes a little bit longer, good on you. That means they're really interested and want to get information, right? You're really developing a relationship. Keep in mind what your next meeting is, please. But if you're meeting with a member, and we've kind of mentioned this before, if they've got votes coming up, and you'll hear a little buzz. If you're on the House side, that's why I would hear a little bell ringing. On the Senate side, I think there's also bells. Honey, are there bells over the Senate side? Do you remember?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you, hon. So I don't mean to make sure she was paying attention, but she's on the. I'm gonna get schwacked for that comment. But anyway, I love you, honey. The truth is, yes, there are bells on both sides, and yes, you're going to hear them. And when that happens, a lot of times that's hey, there's a vote coming up, and they've got to be at the vote. They have 15 minutes to get to a vote, and it'll take them probably for the furthest distance. It'll take them 10 minutes to go from the furthest distance to get to there. That leaves them 5 minutes to go ahead and slip their card in and do the vote. So if that's the case, always remember, get your message out first. If you've got, I mean, generically, if you have 3 main points to make your prime point first, because you may not get a chance to do your second and your third point. Standard. What's the travel time between House and the Senate? I would budget for 45 minutes. And the reason why I would budget for that, normally I would say 30 minutes, but you add 15 minutes because of the time it's going to take you to get through security, the time it's going to get the staffer to come down from their office to get you at the entrance, et cetera, et cetera. So I would budget at least 45 minutes right now. If I have another meeting, this is the thing that Susan brought up. If you have another meeting, do I have to leave and come back in? If you're within the Senate, the answer is get the staffer to escort you to the next meeting if you're by yourself, because the security folks are looking for badge or badge-less people. So you don't, again, they're getting a staffer, and a staffer, according to Capitol Police, can escort up to 15 people. We don't have a group of 15, so they should be able to escort you. Sounds like in the House, the rules may be a little bit more relaxed. That's going to allow you, as long as you stay within the House complex. And there are tunnels that will get you from one side of the Capitol to the other. You don't have access to all the full scope of those tunnels. However, you will have access to the tunnels within the House and the tunnels within the Senate. You go down to either the SB or the basement level, and you walk back and forth between there. Questions up to this point? All right, next slide. This is, again, I just kind of want to show this, but I wanted to make some points on the map. Yes, you can get lost quite easily. Even longtime staffers do. I worked on the House side and my wife worked on the Senate side. If she came over the House, she asked me, how do I get around? And I would show her. When I came to the Senate, I asked her, how do I get around? She showed me all the shortcuts to get to different places. You'll learn them when you live in those, then we both practically lived there. So, but the longtime staffers, so plan in that extra time. Don't be afraid to ask a staffer. They've got a badge on, they look 30 years younger than we do, then they're probably a staffer. And ask them for some directions, and be advised there are maps for that respective building. At every elevator, there are maps, and there are directories at each elevator too that says you're going to see Congresswoman Peltola, she's going to be at 2341. That's where you're going to go see her. All right. So those are there. And by the way, they're listed by the majority and the minority. So the majority will be listed first and the minority will be listed second up there. So that's how they separate them out. I.e. the D's will be at the top and the R's will be at the bottom. Next slide. So this is some of the meeting 101. I love this slide. I love how this slide was used. So yes, I'm using the same slide some of you have already seen, just putting different things on them. Okay, so I'm going to run you through meeting 101. Again, I want to kind of start there. Remember, who is your audience? Are they a co-sponsor or are they not yet a co-sponsor? Because your message is going to depend on that. Okay. First of all, I would get together, and if you've got a group of 3 or more or 2 or more, I'd kind of talk about choose the roles. If you have a Sherpa with you who is able to, talk about the Respect Act and do all those kinds of, use them. But in most cases, it's probably going to be you and or another person. And that person may or may not be able to talk about the Respect Act. So it's kind of on you. But like Jen has already talked through, you're going to have stuff to help prepare you for that. So, I mean, about the Respect Act. Each of you is probably more expert on the Respect Act because of all the meetings you've done, all the things you've had to say, and the life you live every single day than I will ever be. You've probably forgotten more about the Respect Act than I know. So do that. Choose your roles. Your roles are going to be who's going to give introductions, who's going to be the storyteller. Common mistake is, and you've been taught not to, is that you get 4 people in, and when it's time to tell a story, person A talks the story, person B tells a story, person C tells a story, person D tells a story. Your 20 minutes is up. You're done. You're right there. And then the staffer asks a question, and person A asks the question, person B answers the question, person C answers the question, person D. No, have one person that does the introductions. So you don't have to go through the thing of introducing each individual, because we all take different times to introduce ourselves. Have somebody chosen to be a storyteller, the prime story. Who's got the most compelling story? And trust me, again, remember, you've been told the head and the heart. Each office, some like the facts and the data and the quantitative information. There are some that are heart. They're going to cry with your story, just like I do. I'm a quantitative kind of guy. Every time I listen to one of your stories, it just moves me to the point of tears. You're going to want those both. You want to cover both stories, both ends of that. So who's going to be the storyteller that's got the most compelling story that says, you know what, we've got this issue out here and we need your help to help resolve this. And the resolution is, boom, the Respect Act person comes up and says, here's the Respect Act and here's how it resolves that. One more person needs to be a note taker. That's usually good for the Sherpa to do, but then the Sherpa again may not know what's important enough to take. So they should probably take all the notes, right? Who said what to whom, who asked the question. Particularly take note of the questions that the staffer asked and what our responses were, or what IOUs we're going to have, because they might have asked a question that we say, I'm not so quite sure of the answer. Never try to bluff your way through. If you don't know the answer, say, you know what, I don't know the answer to that question, but I can get it back to you. You know, I have your email. I'll get you an answer back, and get it back to them as soon as you can. As soon as you can. It's part of the follow-up. When you check in, be on time. If you're going to be late, call and let them know you're going to be delayed for whatever reason. It might be traffic. It's not acceptable, but it's acceptable. You know what I mean? It's expected sometimes that you're going to be late because of traffic. It happens in DC a lot. We're all aware of that, but try to as much to be on time. So get there ahead of time if you can. If you're the first one there of a group, introduce yourself. Go on in, introduce. Hey, I'm Jen Wisdall. I'm from Washington. I'm here with our group. We have a 3:30 meeting, and I'm kind of waiting for 2 more to show up. Just kind of give that. It's okay. Let them know you're there. You know who's going to be there, and you're accounting for that way. They don't have to worry. That staffer doesn't have to worry about that. Have your business cards ready, because as soon as everybody's in there, they're going to usher you into the room, or they might usher you into the room in advance of everybody. But make sure you have your business cards. If you have business cards that say who you are, what you do, whatever, that's great. That's a good time to give it to them at that point. I'm not saying you should have them. I'm just saying if you do have them, make sure you're available. At the meeting start, usually what a staffer does is they take the business card and you'll see them. They'll put it like, okay, you're sitting across there. They'll put that business card here. They'll put another business card here. They kind of put it that way. They can look, and at least as you introduce yourself, they have the face and the name and a card associated. You'll see that. That's what I did, just to kind of keep things straight. But that's what they'll use your business cards for. You hand them your leave behinds in advance. Don't leave the behind at the end of the meeting. Give it to them up in front. And you don't have to go over each page of the leave behind. The leave behind is exactly what it is. It's a leave behind. I kept mine for probably 6 months. I'd go through them periodically that I had as a staffer. And at some point, about a year and a half into the role, I went, okay, this is NA anymore. We've already done this or that, and boom. Or if I had more questions, I would, it gave me a reason to pick it up. So leave the leave behind there, get it to them in advance. You don't have to go through it. Sometimes if you do, what I used to do as a technique, I said, you know what? We could go through this presentation in detail, but I think we need to get you to the bottom line. We need to get you to what our story really is. And that's what I would focus on, is it lets them know that, yeah, I respect that you can read. I'm asking you to read. Let's go ahead and let's just get the story we want to tell you. And so tell your story. Why are you there? Why are you seeing them today? Why is it important to you? You're the constituent. You're the vote giver. They're the ones that have to earn your vote. They work for you. I mean, all those things you've seen on the media, you've seen people tout and everything else. It's your turn to call them on it. right? It's kind of your turn in a nice way. You don't have to be mean about it, but it's your turn to call them on it. You have the upper hand. And I think that's good. So the cool thing is that I kind of go back and it's in italics on that blue, that's, that little blue thing there. Tell them where you're from, because there's nothing better than a connection. Oh, I'm from Poughkeepsie. Oh, you're from Poughkeepsie? Where? I have a friend that grew up there. Oh man, where'd you grow up? Oh man, I grew up at the corner of Main and 7th Street. Oh, what school did you go to? Oh, I went to such and such school. Connection right there. It is the most important thing that you can do with some staffer on the Hill. Even more important if you can do it with a senator or with a with a representative. But those are important little things. So tell them where you're from and kind of who you are and so forth. And that who you are might say, I'm a doctor and so forth. I got my doctorate at I don't know, pick a place. Yeah, because you never know. By the way, if you can, who your staffer you're going to see, look them up on LinkedIn. You'll find some connections there. Look them up on LinkedIn. Whenever I saw somebody who was looking me up on LinkedIn and were getting ready to visit me, I respected that because I knew they were doing their homework on me and not just walking in blind. I respected that about that. I kind of, it was cool when they did that. Okay. So look them up.
You might find out that your baby sister went to university with them and you may have danced with them at a wedding in your 20s. And they just happen to be Patty Murray's chief of staff. So
what is
you never know what you're going to find out. This is a really good hint. Look them up. Do your research on them.
But where is LinkedIn? Where do we find them?
LinkedIn. It's a social media platform
used
for
LinkedIn.
Yes.
LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yeah, LinkedIn. I'm sorry. It's that Hawaiian in me that gets all tongue tied. LinkedIn.
I thought you were talking about Abe.
Oh, no. I was probably around with Abe's time, but no, it's LinkedIn. Thank you.
Okay, a couple of questions that have come in about security, artificial knee. It's not going to be a problem. They are set. You'll be fine with that. It won't be a problem. They may ask to pat you down, but odds are you're going to be fine there. The other question was around Sherpas. So what I have done is, and this goes into another question about meeting in groups or individually. Some of you are coming as the only representative from your state. No person will be going to a meeting without having someone from FASD United board or myself, or in some cases volunteers, with them who will be able to support you in that meeting, particularly for that first meeting. So just like we do on the Zoom meetings, how you can go in and tell your story and talk about why it's important to the state. We have a backup singer in the meeting as well to be able to talk about aspects of the Respect Act and where we're at now. So this is going to be very similar to the structure of the Zoom meetings, that you will be there with support. Some of you have larger groups. Hey, that's cool. You can divide into different jobs. And again, be very mindful when you're telling your stories. 5 minutes is too long to tell your story, because if you budget 5 minutes, you're going to go 10. Think about what you want to say, plan it out with your team. You're going to be with people from your state. Occasionally, you might have somebody coming with you that's not from your state, but if you're meeting with somebody who's representing your state, they don't want to hear from somebody in Washington state. They want to hear from somebody in their state. They want to hear from somebody in Nevada or Ohio. They don't want to hear from somebody in DC. They really want to hear from you, the constituent, and that's the important piece. We're there for moral support and backup. If there's a question you can't answer, you can look to us, and we might not know either. And we might have to say, oh, sorry, we'll get back to you on that. But, there's a lot of acronyms, political speak. That's where we can be helpful and really just holding your hand. You are not effective as an advocate if you're nervous and uncomfortable. And you are going to be at your best if you are supported and feeling confident. And that's what we're there for. So you are not walking into these meetings completely alone. We do have 2 volunteers from a lobbying law firm that are going to be on site to help as Sherpas also. And the whole schedule, like I said, it's still we are still moving and maneuvering to make sure that we have the right people at the right place at the right time, and there's enough time in between meetings to get to where you need to go. So just know that that Sherpa, whoever you're meeting up with and whoever's accompanying you to the meeting, we will have that listed on your data sheet that is given to you on Friday. It might be late in the day on Friday, but it'll be to you on Friday. It might be really late in the day on Friday, but it will be Friday. But you'll have that. And then in addition, when you check into the hotel, there is going to be a really nice bag of items for you that all go along with the summit. And in there will be also a hard copy of your schedule. So if you forget it, if you don't have it, if you don't have access to your email, if something goes sideways, we have it. Also, along with that, in that bag is going to be my cell phone number. So a card with my cell phone number on it. That way, in case of emergency break glass, get a hold of me. We'll get you where you need to be. So our backup plans have backup plans. So any other questions? Sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but any
No,
other
that's
questions
good.
before we move on?
I liked what Carl said, Carl, and I said, we're spot on, Carl. And Carl said, and just keep this in mind, when you get done, you're going to come away with a renewed sense of purpose. You will. There's such a satisfaction of having addressed it, especially when it's somebody who's sitting there going, man, I didn't know that. And you're giving them all of this and you've put yourself into this. It's a drop the mic experience for you. It'll be awesome. That it wasn't difficult. He's absolutely right. It really isn't it? You'll be fine. You guys are going to be awesome. Let me see. At the very top of that blue thing is talk about the Respect Act, the FASD. Make sure we talk to them about that. Importantly, give them the opportunity to ask questions. It's a conversation. It's not a one-way presentation. So give them that opportunity. Kind of look at them like I've done with you here. As we go through, I'll say, are there any questions? Do you have a question about that? Can I make it, or watch their face too. Their face kind of gets this puzzled look. It's like talking to your kids, right? They get a little puzzled look like it ain't registering. Then okay, better if you probably, see you got a little question. Do you have a question on that? So just kind of look for those communications cues that you would look for in normal conversations with people over a cup of coffee or whatever, your best friend and everything else. The same thing. It's the same thing. Your spouse. It's the same thing. Look for those kind of cues. Give them the opportunity to ask the questions. Make sure, for me, this is really important. Listen, listen, because I tend to talk sometimes, try to over talk. Make sure you take time to listen to what they have to say and take notes. Just make sure you do that. Because in that follow-up after the meeting, the follow-up should be, the question I would ask is, when can we follow up with you? When can we follow up? Can I follow up with you? Would you be the right person I should contact on this particular issue? What more information? Is there more information I can get to you? Those are questions you can ask. It's kind of like that interview, right? You've been to interviews. The folks you're interviewing with always ask the question, do you have any questions? Those would be your questions. Hey, is there more we can come up with? What can we do? Can I follow up? Think through those and have those ready. Once you've done one meeting, you're going to have the same question at every other meeting. Same. This will be perfect script. Thank you. And I wanted to show the list of current Senate sponsors. The yellow highlights those key folks that are on. There are priorities that we've got to talk to. I just saw Lisa at an event, at the same event with Peltola. Had a chance to talk to her about it. So she knows we all are coming, but she's on board. I mean, this is not a problem, folks. She's on board. We just need her help in getting it to the floor. Just, ma'am, what can you do to help us get this to the floor? Because it really needs to get there. Let me see, next list. I think I'm going to go see Senator Hirono, who's my senator from this great state of Hawaii. As you can see, I used to work for that. On the top left there, second one down was Representative Don Young from Alaska. I was his chief of staff. I was just really sad, and our whole family was very sad to see his passing. But like I've said before, he had grandkids that have FASD. His daughter adopted a number of Native Alaskan grandkids that had various issues with them. One of them had an FASD issue. So Don, Congressman Young, was very much involved with this, and that's what his motivation. But the folks in yellow on committees of jurisdiction, they'll be important to talk to, because we need their help in getting this stuff over, just getting it done. And we need more. If you'll see there, it's a preponderance of Ds. In fact, yeah, it's a preponderance of Ds. And we need more Rs on that to help us get through. So we need to help break this log jam, if you will. Next slide.
Okay, and there will be a list of the current House and Senate co-sponsors, as well as a list of endorsements included in the leave behind packet that you have. If your senator or your representative that you're meeting with is currently a co-sponsor, that'll be noted on your schedule.
Heather asked the question, is parking available? It is. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I know where all the secret hidden spots are. You don't. And all the parking that's real close to the hill, that within a mile of walking, those are all permitted kinds of parking. If you park there and somebody busts you because you don't have a permit, I'll tell you what, Renee and I had a wonderful dinner one year. The first time I took her out, it was February 14th, Valentine's Day. We went out to dinner, and man, we were in DC. It was a great, fabulous restaurant, fabulous dinner. And it cost quite a hefty fee to do that. And going in, both of us looked at all the signs, because there's floor of signs up there that says you can park here in this zone, but you can only park here on Saturdays. You can only park here on a full moon. You can only park here if your last name begins with an A. And so we looked at everything to make sure we were parked in the right place. We came out there, we had a ticket. It was $150 parking ticket. You don't want a $150 parking ticket. You want the convenience. My suggestion is, if you're driving and if your car, you want to get closer, then what I would do is, maybe go park at the Pentagon City Mall or whatever, and get something over from there. But trust me, the easiest thing is let somebody, and DC traffic, depending on the size, Renee hates to drive the Tahoe in there. I have a little Infinity and I just zip around. But if you've got a large size vehicle as close, DC drivers are crazy. They just are. They really are crazy. So I would not. Heather, save your car. It's worse than driving in Las Vegas during rush hour when the biggest stars are there. It is bad news. So that's what I would do. Okay. Let me see. Should groups try to Uber together? Yeah, it'll depend on the schedule. I think that might be some opportunities there to do that. How much is an Uber and a taxi from the hotel to the hill? I'm not so sure what that cost will be. I'm going to guesstimate it's around $15, but it can be higher. It can be higher during peak hours, because they'll charge you more for the peak hours. So just be aware of that. Okay. We're trying to make sure that we've scheduled, because you're here for the summit. There's some important things that you've got to talk about that Susan's got planned on that. And we want to do is minimize the time you're in traffic and maximize the time that you're either in the summit or on the hill. So we appreciate both. And I really believe that this is not just a together we can do this. I think we're going to do this. There's just been too much attention to this. Yeah, our Congress is, is in a log jam in terms of things that they would like to do and getting back and forth. But in the end, voters vote, and it is an election year. So in the end, do your job, hold them accountable. Let's do our job. Let's hold them accountable. Let's say this is important. This is important to your constituents. It's important to my kids. It's important to kids that are living in your district day to day. So please, please, please help us with this act. And don't get it confused with the Grijalva Respect Act. This is FASD. Okay.
And we came first.
Yeah.
Our act came first. They copied us.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's it, right? I think that should be the last slide.
I
There might
believe
be.
that's, oh,
Oh, getting together after me. I really meant to put this up, but after the meeting, it's very important. I would get together after the meeting. If you've had a group or something like that. And I would say, and I would compare and consolidate notes. Then I would write a quick report. We ask that you write a quick report and send it to Jennifer. It doesn't have to capture who said what to whom and what second they said this, but perhaps maybe just the results of the meeting. We met with that and any nuances you saw. For example, I met with Staffer Smith, they're brand new, didn't know anything about FASD. We educated Staffer Smith on that and appears to be very very sensitive to our desires and so forth. We'll get back to her. So those are the kinds of things. Or met with Stafford Jones, hates FASD, doesn't want to do it, hates spending money, very ultra conservative on spending. We're going to have a difficulty and an assessment. Should we go back and see them again? How might we convince them to go ahead and do that? So make sure you do that and get that there. And a nice face down there that says, please.
well,
That's
and
it.
what I do with that information too, and why it's so key is I keep a database of all of the staffers we've met with. And, do they have a connection to FASD? Do they have, a brother, sister, sibling, in one case, wife with FASD? And then that way, if they move offices, because they do, it's like musical chairs in there. They're moving offices and changing who they work for all the time. When we go back and meet with them next year, because we're introducing new legislation for something else, we can say, oh, we met with you last year. We talked about this, how, we have those talking points and we're building that relationship. So, and then, 10 years from now, after the Respect Act is passed and, everything's going the way we want it to, and they're running for their first job in the House, and they win their first House seat, because a lot of these staffers move into office, we have that relationship built. Like, this is, when we talk about a marathon, not a sprint, this is it. And this is the start of it. So thank you, Mike, for putting that all together and getting that done. I want to just very quickly share with you a photo, and do not scramble and take notes on this, because this has changed even since I did it. I have the world's largest spreadsheet that is keeping track of all the details and all the information. But this is just a brief snapshot of what we're dealing with here. The ones that we are not booked yet, that we're working on still, the ones that are booked, who's going with who to the meetings, and those cards are changing all the time. This is a giant game of Jenga, of people Jenga. And so pardon my messy writing, but there is a lot happening just behind the scenes. And that's not even from today. So that was from a couple of days ago. So things are changing
For the
all
folks,
the time.
for the folks that are sitting there marveling at that thing, can you show the other folks that are C on a DISC, the ones that are really into detail? Can you just show them the spreadsheet that was based on? Because that's,
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little intense. So a question was asked about taking notes. We have provided you with something to do that in your welcome kit. So
excellent.
there will be something to take notes on. The other thing I might recommend, and I will have some available at the summit. So this is everybody, where you live, who your senator is, who's booking it, when the request was sent. And this is not the most current up-to-date one. This is the old one. At any rate, yeah, this is all like when you arrive, use the Jersey entrance. So I'm plugging this all in here so we have it. Yeah, there's a lot of data flying back and forth. And thank you, Mike, for setting that up, because there's a lot of data flying back and forth. But if you can, bring a thank you note and sit there right there when you get back from the hotel, or get back to the hotel, write out your thank you note to the person you met with. I know thank you
good
notes are kind
idea.
of it's an old fashioned thing, but I can tell you they absolutely work.
Yep.
If you forget to bring a thank you note, hey, that's cool. I'll have an extra stack of them with me that are FASD United thank you notes. You're welcome to use those, but it would be better if it was one just personally from you, reminding them that you're in district or you're in their state, and it's important. This is an important cause to you. So if you can bring that with you and send it off from there. Otherwise, by the time you get back home, after all the other amazing information and bonding and collaborating and connecting you're going to do over the span of the summit, you're going to forget. You might not, I would, and I like details. So maybe you're better than me at it, but I would just recommend doing that right off the bat. In terms of sending an after meeting report to me, email's probably easiest for you. I don't want to make you go on to a form or fill anything out. That's probably just a bit more than you can handle at the summit. If you just have your handwritten notes and you want to write it on your handwritten notes and give those over to me, hey, cool. If you want to take a picture of the handwritten notes that you do in your little summary there and text it to me, hey, cool, that'll work. You know, it's going to take me a while to put all the information together after visits anyway. So the more important thing is just getting it to me. How you get it to me, I will manage. Now, speaking of forms, though, there is a form that Susan put out, getting your cell phone numbers. If you have not gone to that form yet and filled in your cell phone number, I need it. Even if you think I already have your cell phone number, even if I do already have your cell phone number and have been texting you daily for the last 6 months, it doesn't matter. Please fill that out so that I can add that to my big master list of information. It's available and we can communicate with you. Carl, for you, I'll give you a stone tablet instead of a cell phone, and you can work on that Flintstone style, just for you, buddy. A good point. Michael Jeffries put in the chat, bring stamps. I will have a sheet of stamps with me if you do not have your stamps for your thank you notes, although bringing a pre-addressed stamped envelope is not a bad idea. That could be a little bit of homework in between packing. I know you know, there's a lot of questions and a lot of uncertainty when you're heading out on a trip like this, and it can be a little bit nerve-wracking because for some of you, you've never met anybody in person that's going to be there. That can be hard, meeting new people and trying to see how you're going to fit into that. I can tell you that the majority of people who are attending have never met each other in person before. So I just want you to hear that loud and clear, that we're all kind of starting from the same place. Yes, we've had some meetings online, but that's not necessarily the same as meeting each other in person. So I really want to encourage you, if you are more of the shy sort, know that you are not going to be alone in that. And, you know, Susan and I have arms wide open. Come sit with us. You can always sit with us. We're not mean girls. We're not going to exclude you from our table and tell you on Wednesdays you have to wear pink. You know, you can come sit with us anytime and we will happily introduce you. And as a matter of fact, we're looking forward to introducing all of you to other people that you can build connections with in person and in real life. So
I'm actually arriving on Saturday, and so that Jen and Susan aren't overwhelmed. If anybody wants to meet, well, not because you're going to be overwhelmed with meeting people, but because you're going to be busy finalizing details. But if anybody needs to or wants to meet up Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, let me know. I'd be more than happy to do a get together in the hotel. We can figure something out at that point. But the big thing is to remember that we like our Congress critters, we all put our clothes on basically the same way. I don't put my skirts on that way, but you know, who knows. But yeah, you know, just so that we all are comfortable with each other, it's not a huge deal. We're just regular people who are passionate about one thing.
Absolutely. And everybody who's coming deserves to be there. everybody who's coming has their own unique experience and expertise in the field of FASD, whether it's through work, whether it's through lived experience. There is something to be learned from each and every person coming, and I'm just really excited that we get the opportunity to do that. So if Susan and I are a little slow to respond to emails in the next couple of days, I'm going to ask you to please forgive me, forgive both of us. Usually I'm pretty quick on responding back on my emails, and I'm not going to be. And I'm very, very sorry. So if there is something urgent that is, oh my gosh, I have to know this right now, or, you know, my flight's not going to work, or, you know, that sort of thing, I am putting my my phone number in the chat. That is my work phone, but it also receives text. It's on my cell phone. So, you know that you do have that as a backup, you know, in case something's going on, and just put that into your cell phone too, for when you're up on the hill. If something goes sideways, if you're running late, whatever, you know, that's your SOS line right there.
I have a question,
Mhm.
and this isn't directed, this isn't directed at you specifically, but if anybody is doing a long haul train trip to get to DC, you're going to want to check with Amtrak to make sure your train is still moving. So just as an FYI, I don't know that anybody will be doing that, but I had considered it as an option for travel, and Amtrak is shutting down long routes because of the pending rail strike. So.
And if any of you are concerned about taking an Uber alone, don't Uber alone, because there is, in almost every single case, other people heading to the hill at the same time you are. So share the expense, share the ride, share the fuel. And I'll try to note as much as possible who else you might want to connect with to be able to buddy up to head to the hill. So, and if you have a question on that, again, feel free to ask. It might take me a little bit to get back, but feel free to ask. Anything else, Susan, that we need to, I know we're over time, so.
If you're Ubering or whatever, bring a mask. Some Uber folks are, you know, one of the first things you're going to do is they're going to get a thing that says, hey, make sure you have a mask on. So I haven't Ubered in DC in a while, but I know when we were just recently in another location, they were requiring that. So make sure you have that.
Jen, I think one thing that we might want to tell people is where they can pick up their bag when they check into the hotel. The hotel staff should have a bag for you that you pick up that will have those items that Jen mentioned for you. And if Jen has anything specific that she needs to get to you for any of your hill visits, Jen, is there a time or a place where you want them to meet up with you on Monday to get person-specific information?
Every effort is going to be made to have that information put with your bag.
Okay.
I may, in some cases, come by your room and drop some stuff off. I may text you and say, hey, can we meet up in the lobby? And I'm going to give you your schedules and give you your information. So look for me. I'm shorter than you'd think. And I like to say in real life, I'm 5'10" and a natural redhead. I just play this on TV. But look for me running around the hotel in circles, and I will get your information to you for each of your meetings, your leave behinds, and your schedules. Your schedules will for sure be in your bags. The leave behind information, we're not sure if we can get that fit into your bags or not, so I may have to hand deliver that information to you. There isn't a separate little room or anything that we have for that we have set aside as like an office, like a little boardroom kind of meetup zone there. We weren't able to get one booked for that, but you know, again, I will be around. I will find you, and you have full access to call, email, and text me to find me, and I will make sure that you have your information in hand for your drop-offs or your leave behind.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you,
Thank
Jen,
you.
for taking this time and walking us through that. Super excited to see everybody. Safe travels, and we will see you on Monday in person.
Woo!
Jackie, I will connect with you separately about making sure that you get your leave
Right.
behind information. So I will probably send that with your Sherpa.
Okay, great. And then on Friday, we're getting an email to tell us who the Sherpa is and all that information. Right.
Absolutely, on Friday.
All
It
right.
might be late Friday night.
That's okay.
Um,
I'm not leaving till Sunday. I'm good.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody's flying out prior to Sunday except for Susan and I, and maybe Carl. But yeah,
Okay.
so
Somebody asked if the masks are required for the meetings. I can't speak on behalf of the summit, but, and Susan can, but I would have one in hand just in case. I suspect that if they had concerns about meeting with constituents in person, it would have gone virtual automatically. But looking at how some offices are opening up more, and just in case, I would just have one on hand just in case they ask for that. Okay.
Mike makes a really good point. The hotel told us that they are not required for us to wear masks in the hotel, but everybody's comfort level is different. If you want to wear a mask, if that's something that's important to you, do what feels comfortable to you to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And if you have one, like Mike said, with you, then wherever you go, you won't be surprised if somebody says, hey, you need one in here. So have a nice afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Can't wait to see you in person. Bye, everybody.
See everybody soon.
Bye.
all right. You want to stop recording, Susan?